Mark, we're in The Hague. You just finished a two-day conference. We brought you all the way from Canada. Was it worth it?
Oh yeah, it was a fantastic conference. It was a wide range of expertise. It was unique for me because to have both the rule of law professionals, scholars, practitioners, as well as members of the SSR community, this growing community, was very instructive to me, to hearing some of the different perspectives and some of the challenges in working together that exist.
Right. You said earlier during one of the discussions that for you there were things that were not entirely clear before you came today in terms of this relationship between the two strands. Can you say something about that?
Yeah, certainly. I found that one of the interesting things was I wasn't aware of the depth of some of the tensions that existed. I come from an SSR background. Right. I consider the rule of law to be sort of a fundamental principle upon which the whole SSR framework is built upon. It's a central pillar of security sector reform. Right. Yet they were being discussed in the meeting almost as two separate entities, and to me that conflicted with my own conception of what SSR is and what the rule of law is and their relationship, and also what the main documents, the fundamental texts on SSR also say, which again frame rule of law as one of those guiding principles for security sector reform. So this was an eye-opener for me because I could see some of the tensions emerging, particularly coming from some of the rule of law specialists, experts, and practitioners which were present.
Right, and this was surprising to you.
It was surprising for me because, you know, I guess I felt that there was more coherence between the two groups, that I haven't seen as much of those tensions that exist. I also felt that there was some misconceptions of what SSR fundamentally, what this concept is. And as I said again, a concept that is rooted to the rule of law. Right. So the idea that somehow these are contradictory or competing interests confused me a little bit, opened my eyes, and certainly I think will guide some of my thinking going forward.
Okay, and the final question, did you get the feeling that your intervention throughout the meeting helped to mitigate a little bit those concerns from the rule of law side?
Well, I hope so. I mean, you always hope that your interventions will have a positive effect. I mean, I tried to bring the perspective of a security sector reform expert specialist and someone who has been involved from time to time on the practitioner side to really lay out how SSR is viewed within this community, and lay out what I think is one of the fundamental problems here, which is the gap between policy and practice. I think where some of these misconceptions emerge is that the actual SSR concept as it's designed is rarely implemented effectively in the field. And so I think that's where, and when I say that, I often mean that the rule of law, that fundamental principle of SSR, often doesn't receive adequate attention when it's in actual stages of implementation, despite the fact that it is a core part of the theory and the concept. And so I think that we have to, as communities, as a rule of law community and an SSR community, have to work to narrow this policy, practice, or conceptual, contextual gap. Otherwise, we aren't going to achieve many successes in security sector reform, and I would argue that there are very few successes. So I think that's where the direction that the field has to go.
Right, so the problem is not so much on the conceptual level, where there is quite a large degree of convergence, but where things go wrong in practice, that's where we see problems.
Exactly, I think we have to work better to translate this pretty good concept, not a perfect concept, but a good concept, into something that is practical, achievable, and realistic on the ground, that can be effectively operationalized to improve the human security and provide access to justice to people in some troubled states, post-conflict, post-authoritarian states in the world. And that's where we see that natural sort of connection between security sector reform and the rule of law.
Loud and clear. Thanks a lot.
All right, my pleasure. Thanks.